We
Yeah.
need to stop delegitimizing knowledge that doesn't fit into Enlightenment paradigms.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Academic Misfits podcast. We're going to be joined by Marie, who first I learned about on The Professor is Out when she posted about being woo and academic all at the same time. And I was like, bring in the woo woo. Um, so, welcome to this episode where we're going to discuss about human design, tarot cards, everything woo. But at the same time, Marie is an associate professor of arts. And so she brings her academic self and how she's kind of, wiggled and made her room and in academia, despite being kind of a misfit in there. So I can't wait to get started and listen to her story. But to give you an idea again of what this podcast is about, in case you're new here, have a little look around. We don't just have about leaving academia, although some people do decide that when they're a little bit out of place in academia and things have come to push and shove, they've had to push back and also because of that and maybe have been pushed out. Maybe because they didn't fit into the system and the system didn't feed their needs and they had to find something different. And again, some people have thrived despite the system, that academia has created. And so we still unite with all the misfits. Misfits unite regardless. And here we go. Welcome, Marie, to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I really appreciate the invitation.
Yes, it's like it was just I need to invite you like as soon as we met, So, yeah, do you want to tell about who you are and why you're here?
Sure. Yeah. So, I'm an academic misfit. That's appropriate for this podcast. So I have like many identities. What I guess if I had to say about like my identities, I don't know how I prioritize them, but mom would probably be like top, and then I don't know where the others would fit. But like I'm a mom, and that's probably like really. Yeah. And then I'm also an associate professor of art history at Kent State University at Stark. And I teach a lot of like intro art history courses, but then I also do courses on contemporary art. My specialty, like my research specialty, again, I couldn't pick one, so I have two. One is early Soviet art and visual culture, and the other one is pedagogy of art history. So what happens in best practices in teaching and learning in the art history classroom. And then I am also I call myself a happiness mentor and a chaos recovery supporter at Soul Star Attunement. Which is my little side hobby practice where I work with clients on human design and also EFT tapping. And I have like a very signature method of weaving human design, EFT tapping, Reiki, tarot, crystals, like a whole holistic practice of bringing people through their own words into greater alignment with their higher selves. And yeah, I'm also a cat mom.
I'm a cat mom too. It's part of the witchcraft, probably.
Probably. I don't know. I've gotten a little tiny bit into animal communication. It's challenging, and I haven't taken any courses. It's kind of on the like back burner. Like maybe someday I will take animal communication courses. My Reiki teacher, who I took Reiki 2 and 3 with, her primary modality is animal communication, and she teaches Reiki because she thinks that it's so important for animal communication. So it's kind of like, well, I took, and the Reiki courses she took or she taught were just, they completely changed my life. So
yeah,
someday maybe the universe will tell me it's time to take animal communication with her.
Yes. Well, and the people next door to me have a cat called Luna. So it's just really funny. They have 3 cats next door. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
And she has quite a human face. I don't know if you've ever seen a cat with it's kind of flat. Do you know what I mean? Like the
Mhm.
nose isn't very long, so it just kind of makes her look like, are you me?
Uh-huh.
Am I you? I'm confused.
Your cat doppelganger.
I know. Yeah, I love all the identities. I think that's one of the first things when I was like kind of just getting out of the mindset of like, who am I? And, am I an academic only? Is that the only thing I can do? Even if I wasn't like thinking about leaving necessarily, because it turns out I had been thinking about leaving since like 2016. In the same time that since 2015, 16, I was thinking of also leaving the US as a citizen,
Mhm.
expatriating. So these things have
Mhm.
been in my mind of like, who am
Mhm.
I for a very long time. But
Mhm.
yeah, the ideas of like who else am I? I'm Latin American. I'm, like all these different things. I love that. And being a
Mhm.
mom is like, yeah, as you said, central. It's the
Mhm.
central part that I had to reconnect with because
Mhm.
academia took so much of my time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was a balance. I mean, we had been trying to get pregnant for 6 years, and finally, when I moved here, we were able to get pregnant with IVF, and so I was pregnant my first year on the tenure
Oh,
track.
wow.
Yeah, so that was a wild ride, and then like having a newborn for the first, for my years, like my first couple of years on the tenure track, it was a lot, but
Yeah. Yeah, so tell me
I.
about how you got into academia and yeah, are you still in the same place where you started, your academic
Mhm,
journey and yeah,
mhm.
how have you felt the experience of academia, but what brought you there?
Well, okay, that's like a giant question. I'm trying to think like what inroads. I mean, so I grew up in a family with two PhD parents, and so kind of that was not abnormal. Like it was a logical pathway for me. Um, but it wasn't really until, well, there were a couple of things that drove me into where, like, well, not drove me, led me, guided me into where I ended up. One, I did my junior abroad in Paris, and I was introduced there to a Russian artist named Kazimir Malevich, with whom I became positively obsessed, and then wrote my dissertation about. And like I've done a ton of publications about him, and then also like peripheral to the things that I was investigating in his works. Um, and so that passion, for understanding what was going on with this Soviet artist who, I mean, the initial question was, there's a Soviet artist who is painting like very identifiable crosses, like Orthodox crosses, in under the Soviet Union, like in 1923. I'm like, how is this possible? What is happening here? And it took me close to 2 decades to write that article. But I finally wrote it, and it's in a book on like semiotics. And like it really, I finally like decided what I felt about the answer to that question and what it should be. So yeah, that was that, and I'm still, like, you can tell. I mean, I'm still really passionate about that. And then I worked in undergrad, and then I got like a job dropped in my lap when I like right a few days before graduation, to run the tutoring program at like the tutoring learning center at my university. And that experience, tutoring and then leading the tutoring program for 3 years there, really cemented in my mind that this is what I wanted to do. And I mean, that leads to my dual passions. Like I have this passion for studying early Soviet art, and then I also have this passion for teaching and learning,
Mhm.
and hence my two research trajectories.
Right, right.
I knew that I could teach really well. I knew that I could bring something that students weren't getting to the classroom. And so that led me to apply to grad school. I did my graduate work at Bryn Mawr, which was an amazing place to do graduate work.
Wow.
And really a phenomenal program. It's the first artistry PhD program in the United States, and very supportive, and not your typical like grad school experience of being a TA for large 300 person lecture classes, that kind of thing. I did not do a TA-ship in my entire graduate career there, because there were so many other options for funding. So that was my experience of academia.
Yeah.
I did several different adjunct positions at different locations around the Philadelphia area. And then I got my tenure track position at Kent State University Stark, and I've been here ever since. So,
Okay. Yeah.
and yeah, sorry. I feel like you have, give me another question.
Well, what
That was a long answer.
I was gonna say, like, do you feel like it was, yeah, I was just wondering if it was, I feel like there's something about entering a place when you, like, you said that was like the beginning of motherhood as well. And
Mhm.
so it's almost like they've seen your journey and can support you. Have you found like that because you came in with that you've just been like supported through that rather than like coming, I don't know. I came after I came into my first, permanent lectureship which is assistant professor over here is called. And I'd already had the baby, so it was a little bit hard. I had to be like, can I have this time off? And they're like, what baby? You know what I mean? Just wondering about your experience with that.
That's a really interesting question. It ran the spectrum. It really ran the spectrum. I have and had colleagues who were bend over backwards supportive. Um, and I had colleagues who bullied me
Mm,
um, because of it.
mm.
And yeah, so it really and then I had colleagues who just kind of ignored the whole the
Yeah.
whole baby thing entirely. But you know what? I didn't really care. I brought her to everything that I
Yeah.
needed to go to, because I extended breastfed. And I mean, it took me 6 months to be able to actually, really actually breastfeed. So I was not giving that up until it was time. Because I worked for that for 6 freaking months.
God, I thought I had it hard because I like waited because I couldn't get it to work for like 6 weeks or something like this. But same. I was like,
Yeah,
I am not giving this up. And then
yeah,
I was surprised when she still wanted to at 4 years old, and I was like,
yeah.
oh, um, are we gonna stop ever?
I don't actually remember how
I
old
don't
she
do it
was when
now.
we stopped. It just kind of sort of stopped.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how or why.
Yeah.
And then, I probably, put how I would figure out when it happened is I would go back and look at my CV, and I'll remember which conference was the first conference I went to on my own after she was born.
That's
Because
incredible.
literally I took her to every single conference because we were still breastfeeding.
Yeah.
Every meeting that I had, she came. Every workshop, she was there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
she's part of me. This is what the third trimester looks like, or the fourth trimester looks like.
Exactly.
This is what, attached parenting looks like. So here I
Yes.
am, and modeling that for my students, because I
Mm.
have a lot of students who are mothers. A
Wow.
lot of students, because I teach at and especially when I was teaching in person, I teach at a regional campus where a lot of students are doing part-time work, or they're at the regional campus because that's the only option they have because of all their other responsibilities to work and family, elder care, child care. If they want to get a degree, they have to be at our campus. And so, one year in my contemporary art course, I think almost half the students were either mothers or pregnant.
Wow.
And and that changes the conversation when you look at something like, I don't know if you're familiar with Mary Kelly's postpartum document. It's a series of artworks where she documented her child's like development from birth to, I don't know, like age 1, or I don't remember, but like it's a very conceptual piece, and one of the like pieces of it, like there's just hundreds of these documentation. One of them is like a dirty nappy wrapper with like typed up notes about like amount of formula consumed and weight of contents of diaper and that kind of thing. And like having that conversation in a class of half moms, totally different from a different semester where that was not the population in that class,
Yeah. So do you feel like you kind of made it more normative for them, or like more, yeah. And so, and being at that university, that was kind of encouraged. Like my first university was also one where like a lot of students were mature students and were local. So it wasn't one where it wasn't like a Harvard, or it wasn't like, yeah. And so we had a lot of like local students who came from like, working class backgrounds. A lot of them had jobs. A lot of them had kids. A lot of them, so I taught a lot online, and did my office hours online. And this would have been like 2007, and I was trying to find anything. There's no Zoom. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
yeah. So it's interesting that like these things, both foster our values already, but also push us to create systems within academia that can support people who haven't been supported there. So, yeah, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about any other ways that you've kind of pushed the system or molded it, pulled.
I don't know that I have come to a place, and this is in large part informed by my understanding of my human design and learning about my human design, that pushing and molding is not my jam. It's not my energy. It's not what I'm supposed to be doing. It's not my correct path. I'm here to bring people together, to network, to create networks, and to create inspiration through networking. I'm here to be invited to share my wisdom. So this is actually the first podcast that I've done in probably a year. And I stopped doing podcasts. I did a bunch of them, maybe about a year ago. And they were all like, I sent out my information and I was like, hey, I'd love to be a guest on your podcast, when they would post something on like a Facebook group about looking for guests. I'm like, yeah, my stuff totally fits your podcast. And I didn't get a whole lot of traffic from that. And I realized that I needed to stop. I needed to pause, go into my cave, which is like, that's part of my human design, is going into my cave and wait for someone to call me out of my cave. And here you are calling me out of my cave. And so I knew when you invited me, I was like, okay, this is a correct podcast for me to be on, because you're asking me to do it. And I'm not putting myself out there. So and that's how I'm approaching. I've totally like reconfigured, readjusted how I think about my relationship to the university, because for so much of my career at the university, I was like pushing, like, we should be doing this, we should be doing this, we should be doing this, and crickets. Wow. Crickets. Like, and I was totally involved with the Center of Teaching and Learning and doing all this amazing stuff at the Center of Teaching and Learning and getting absolutely no recognition, and actually the opposite of recognition for these incredible innovative teaching strategies that like people all over the country are celebrating me for doing, and my colleagues are like, what is she doing? Like, they couldn't even see, because it was so far out of the spectrum of what they understand good teaching to look like. Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just not gonna do that anymore. I'm not gonna push. I am going to go back in my cave. I am going to just wait to be invited to share my genius.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go do things that bring me joy instead of constantly trying to prove myself to these people that are never going to recognize me. Because I'm literally running uphill on a treadmill, like that's going the opposite direction when I'm trying to get recognition from them, because that's not my energetic blueprint. That's
That's
that's not in alignment for me.
mm,
And so so one of the things that has happened this year is I did get called out by a few of my colleagues so I'm kind of responsible to people at my campus. I'm responsible to people in the School of Art at the central campus. We try not to call it main campus because we have different campuses. But my colleagues that, at the Kent campus, they're like, we really need you to be on this committee, Marie. We really want you to be on this committee. Can you please, I've got multiple people texting me during this meeting, like, can you please volunteer for this? And I was like, okay, I guess I'm getting called out now. So I did it. And that's what happened so the way that we connected is I posted just random question on a couple of Facebook groups that was like I had this Venn diagram, academia and woo, and there's this intersection, there's me. And I'm like, am I alone here? And I just posted this and people responded in droves. There's over 300 I posted in 2 different groups and over 300 comments on both posts at this point.
wow.
And I mean, probably half of those are mine because I'm responding and interacting with people, which is also in alignment with my design, to be responding to people instead of putting myself out there, waiting for people to come back and then responding to them. And so, and in both posts, people are like, we need a group to have these conversations. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to start a Facebook group. So I started one. It's just Academia Plus Woo on Facebook, and we have 137 members as of this morning, and we're having some really amazing conversations. And I'm just on day. I don't know. I have this guide for how to kickstart your Facebook group that I got from a engaged group coach. And I'm on day 19 of 22 posts on that. So I just kind of followed her template and adjusted it for the audience and for the group, because she created the template for someone who's creating a group to build their business. And I was like, well, that's not what this group is. This group is a place for bringing people together in community. And also, in a way, it's also for me to build trust factors, so that if there are people in the group that are getting to know me and want to engage with me elsewhere, then there's that option for them, but I'm not using it as a vehicle for my business. You know what I mean? It's a vehicle for networking, because that's in alignment with my design, to build networks, to bring people together.
Amazing. I love that. Yeah. I love everything that you said about, finding things that are more aligned with the way that you are supposed to approach things in the world. Things that align with the way that you operate in the world, and that are part of your machinery in a way, right? And so many times, the same thing. I was doing loads of things in academia. I got prizes for teaching, but did that save me when things were people were being laid off? No. Did it save me from, getting reamed about how much grant funding I was getting in and, therefore not getting promoted? Yeah, it didn't have any bearing on the things that mattered in academia. I'm using air quotes there for people listening. Things that mattered. Of course they matter. And the students, really loved the way that I worked. But like you said, it was not valued. But,
Mm-hmm.
and I tried to like change policies and things like that in the way that, you're affecting policy, and, that can definitely like translate outside of academia if you like affect policies. But it was so much pull, so much pushing.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I wanted, the way that I naturally work is not like that. And the way that I've built my business after that and the people that I work with is not by pushing
Mm-hmm.
and pulling. And yeah, and when you put out that post, I took it and said, this was posted on another group. Who in here like aligns with this? Because
Yeah. Thank
I
you.
aligned with it. And then everybody
Yeah.
was like, I align with it. So what's interesting is that everybody who was in my Facebook, like, and all my clients, for example,
Mm-hmm.
the way that I put out my energy has brought in people who align with your graphic, but I didn't
Yeah.
recruit them on that.
Yeah. I love
I
that.
didn't say who's
It
woo,
just
come work with me.
happened. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
energy that I bring. It's the I've been
Mm-hmm.
playing around with like imagery of light and, luna
Mm-hmm.
clara, and how like everything I do is light, not just in light as
Mm-hmm.
in like making things clear for people as they're moving out of academia and finding a new job and a new career and a new place where they fit, but also light in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like things don't feel heavy, and light in terms of like
Yeah.
being silly and bringing in a little bit of like dance into it as well, because we bring that
Mhm.
lightness of foot into it as well, so
Mhm.
like all the ways that I'm bringing light into it and just putting out that energy of lightness, I think has brought in
Mhm.
the Venn diagram.
Yeah. Yeah,
And brought
definitely.
in you into, into my like us
Oh,
together as well, which is incredible.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell people about human design. I think
Oh, yeah.
I've
Well,
got a
you want to look
graphic.
at, you want to load up my chart? Okay, so this is my blueprint here. And if people are wondering like how do I know that I'm designed to be like go into my cave and how I'm designed to like network people, if you look on the very top, the numbers, there's two rows of numbers on the left and the right. And the very top number on the left is 22.4 and on the right is 45.2. That dot 4 is the networking. It's called the profile line, and it's a line about bringing people together through networks and being the person that connects many people together, which I've been having a ton of fun doing in the Facebook group. And then the line 2 is the like, hey, I call it the Batman line. Because like you're supposed to go back to your bat cave and wait for the light to show up and call you out of your bat cave, right? Because here's the thing that you're supposed to go do. The other thing about the fourth line, back to the fourth line, that I love how the interplay of the second line and the fourth line work. Sometimes they're in conflict because there's like bat cave networking, like how do you network out of the bat cave? But the fourth line, like the other kind of challenge with the fourth line is I'm here to create situations and provide the groundwork for stability in the midst of chaos. And so by being a fourth line, I naturally like magnetize to myself situations of chaos, which the universe wants me to help stabilize. And I feel like that's one of the things that I'm doing both in my work with my clients, as well as in this group. Like academia is like, no one can deny that it's not a dumpster. Like it's a dumpster fire. It's a giant chaotic dumpster fire. And I felt like this like intersection of woo practices, different approaches to spirituality, to understanding how the universe works. I mean, there's people that are bringing in quantum physics into this. There's people that are bringing in tarot. There's just so many different like modalities, and people are coming together. And I feel like there's something very important about those practices and the decolonization and destigmatization of those practices through like post-colonial studies. That academia, like we as academicians have something important to say about that, but also that those frameworks have something to give us to help us stabilize the dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And that's
so
why you're the chaotic recovery person.
Yeah, that's why I'm the chaos recovery supporter, because people like, I am naturally inclined to, or people sense when I am in alignment in my energy, that I am someone who can help them find stability out of chaos.
Mm.
That I will be the person that somehow guides them through that. In part because I have had so many like dramatically chaotic experiences throughout my entire life that have totally thrown me into utter instability, that I've then had to like work through how to bring stability back to the situation.
Mm,
Um,
yes.
yeah, so I don't. We can get into that if you want,
Well,
or not.
if people, I guess like one thing that I'll say about this, I don't know if you want to say more about it, but like in human design, it seems from what I understand, it combines different types of ancient knowledges, some of it
Mm-hmm.
having to do with, astrological
Mm-hmm.
signs, and some of it
Mm-hmm.
having to do with, like, you can tell here, like the chakras.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so, yeah, you then have like different parts of yourself that are open or closed and make you either susceptible to society's messages or less susceptible. I won't say like, yeah, you have
Yeah,
some that
I
are
mean,
like, but yeah, that's what human design really gives you, right? It kind of gives you these ideas. Like, yeah, do you want to talk a little bit more about
I mean,
what people could get out of it if they did it themselves?
so I see human design every aspect of the chart. And it also incorporates, by the way, the 64 gates of the I Ching. So like it's a
Oh
very
yeah.
integrative system of all sorts of different like spiritual knowledge. But
Mm.
I see each aspect of the chart as having it's two sides of the coin. And there's an optimal expression of that archetype, and then there's a conditioned expression. And I think that and I think that the parts that are open and the parts that are defined, both of them have optimal and conditioned expressions.
Mm.
And conditioning is really where we, for good reason, like it's not a bad thing that we do this, which I think a lot of people in human design treat it as bad, but conditioning is where we block access to our higher selves. We block access to our inner truth.
Mm.
And usually because we are protecting ourselves from trauma. So conditioning, I see, goes hand in hand with trauma. There's very little conditioning that I have come across in working with, over 100 people. Like I've yet to come across conditioning that is not innately intertwined with trauma.
Mm.
And so conditioning isn't just something, in my experience, that we can just say, oh, I'm going to turn this off, because we have to take care of our inner child
Mm.
first. We have to talk to our inner child. We have to reassure our inner child. We have to help her come to a place where she feels safe, because she is going to turn on those conditioning levers anytime she feels threatened by whatever it was that conditioned these expressions of our archetypes in the first place. So human design gives us a picture of where our conditioning and our conditioning triggers probably are, like where like the greatest attention we can focus on, like, oh, that's why I've always been that way. you know
Right.
and embracing it instead of like rejecting it, instead of saying, oh, that's the bad part of me, I shouldn't do that, I shouldn't just like disappear from the world for 6 months because that's bad to do that. Well, actually, as a second line, the times where I disappeared from the world, except for like the very vital things that I needed to do for 6 months, that was totally in alignment with my design. It's what I needed to do. It was exactly what needed to happen. And embracing that and understanding that that's part of my healing process.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be doing a workshop actually on May 17th on just basic, I'm calling it Read Your Own Human Design Chart, a gentle intro to understanding your energy blueprint. And so if people are more interested in exploring this, we'll dive into just some of the basics of like what it feels like to understand your own chart a little bit better.
That's amazing. Yeah, we have you sent me this website as well where people can. I don't have the link on there. What is the link?
So it's Your Human Design. I sent it in the show notes, like the links for the show notes. So you'll find it there.
Yes.
But it's soulstarattunement.com / hold on, let me read it out loud. Your-human-design.
Oh yes, so it says Soul Star Attunement there. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the there you go.
Yeah.
So that's the website. You can generate your human design chart on that website. And if you don't know your exact birth time, you can put in approximately what you think it is. You can also experiment and throw in, like, if you have no clue, like, I know I was born on this day. You can put in like 1 a.m., 6 a.m., 10 p.m., like just put in a random variety of times and see what changes. And when you go and do your chart through this, you can see the visual of what changes. And then there's also a free PDF download that gives you just a very basic introduction to how to interpret that chart. So you can download those PDFs and see like, oh, well, this big thing that's in this report changes if it's depending on whether I was born at 10 p.m. or 4 a.m. You disappeared.
I'm right here. I just thought you put you on
the spotlight. So that's an option if people want to generate their charts and like dig more deep into it. That's totally free, and I love it when people learn more about the human design charts. People resonate with that graphic differently. Like for some people, it just really, like, seeing their own design, it hits them on a visceral level. Yes. I am not one of those people that had that experience, but I hear again and again that there are people that, like, when they see, it's like, oh, that's me. And they don't know why. In part because the whole system was a channeled system. It was channeled by kind of a guru who's kind of, how gurus go, like sometimes they're kind of jerks.
Like delusions of like
20th century gurus that are kind of jerks.
Kind of narcissistic.
Oh yeah, a lot. Very heavily conditioned to not really fully like, and actually one of the things that that was very helpful in my human design journey is I didn't start with him. I started with a teacher named Karen Curry Parker, who teaches quantum human design. And her approach to human design is very different from how she was taught by him, because she has this approach that is speaking to people who are already self-aware. He was speaking when he channeled the system and then spread it to the world. He was speaking to a lot of people who just were not in this space of self-awareness. And so many people now are aware of the whole idea of conditioning. So people, they're on their journey of deconditioning already, and they want to go further. And there's this openness to possibility in the way that she interprets the human design system that just really resonated with me. And the one thing that I was going to talk about, you asked me before we started about how am I balancing like the toxicity of the academy, and my academic position and doing woo stuff.
Yes.
And one of the things that really, like, a whole bunch of things hit me all at once. And one of them was this possibility of this, like, intense curiosity about human design just fell into my lap. And I found myself suddenly, for the first time since grad school, really, in a community of learners who were intensely excited, intensely supportive of one another. And I was like, yes, this is what I needed in my life, because I did not have that for my years, my pre-tenure years. I did not have that, like, intensely excited community of people that were, like, lifting each other up, because there's just so much, like, fierce competition in the academy. And
Yes.
and I didn't feel that in this community, within the quantum human design community. So
Oh, wow.
that's really, like, what was vitally important in this move and transition in my life, from identifying solely as an academic to identifying as someone who has multiple directions and passions in her life,
Yeah.
because I needed that community.
So it was the community. So, like, was human design the first thing? Or because I know you mentioned like crystals, you mentioned tarot cards, you mentioned Reiki. I found like an amazing community of Reiki practitioners that I'm really enamored. I mean, I have ADHD, so I call them my manias. They're not manias, but like the things I get really into. I go down rabbit holes, right? And right now, like, I mean, Reiki has been in my life for, over 20 years, so it's not actually new, but I did leave it for a long, I mean, like I said to you before, I think we started recording, like, there's things that I've left for a very long time. The tarot cards that my dad left me, the Reiki that I had when I lived in California, and then just moved all over the world, postdoc and da 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 da, and just, lost. And then when I had a Reiki session in LA just last year, April, it was about this time. It was actually about this time. I had the most insane dreams. I had bodily sensations that I'm like, why is my knee burning? I do not know. That's never happened in my whole life. And it was just, I need to get back into this. And yeah, the community has been there. So I was just wondering about, how has yours kind of developed as well?
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, Reiki was my great gateway drug.
I was going to say, what's your gateway?
Yeah, really. I mean, honestly, like, I had been dabbling in various different, like, I mean, I had been on a journey, a self-healing journey, for over a decade, maybe 15 years, just because of chronic health problems. And so I dabbled in a variety of different, like, trying to find the right healing modality. And then I finally did Reiki 1 training. I had my first actual Reiki session the week before I did the weekend of Reiki 1 training. I'd never had a Reiki session before, but I'm like, well, I should probably have a Reiki session before I actually get trained in this modality. I have no clue what it is. And it totally rocked my world, in important and also brutal ways. It was tough. It was really tough, and stuff came up that I was not ready for, but the universe decided it was time. And so, yeah, that was what started it. And then the Reiki Center, where I took Reiki 1 training, offered, like, within a month, a free online workshop about human design. And they're like, oh, sure, I'll investigate that. And boom, I'm like, I need to know everything about this. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
I was looking at my chart, and I was like, oh, that's why this does this, and blah, blah, blah. And, like, then I was like, I need to have my husband's and my daughter's chart. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I pulled up, like, my parents' chart, and I was like, oh my God, I married my mother.
I've only done my child's. I haven't done my partner's. I need to do this now. Although maybe I don't want to know.
was super helpful for me.
Yeah.
Like knowing it has made major changes in how I communicate with my partner. Um,
Mm.
it has helped me learn how to support him
Yeah.
so much more effectively, and how to not butt heads with him.
Yeah.
Um, because I understand how different he is from me. And I also understand how when he does this particular thing, it's not him that's triggering me. I mean, it is, but it's his energy, because it's the energy that I experienced constantly growing up and being in toxic situations and toxic relationships and toxic conversations. And that's what's being triggered. It's not him.
Mm.
And so just understanding that that's part of his design, that's part of his reason why he's in my life, is to help me like resolve and work through those triggers. It's a totally different approach to when I get upset with him and I have to step back and be like, okay, this is me. This is
Mm.
not him. This is not his thing to resolve. This is me and what I need to work on. It totally changed things for me. I don't know. I can't take his opinion for it, because like that's a totally different thing. But for me, it was a total game changer, and it was a total game changer for understanding why my child operates in certain ways that drive me bonkers.
Yeah.
Part of her design, and part of her design is to, trigger certain things for me too that I need to resolve. So
Yes.
yeah,
And I guess
yeah.
there is a difference between like I guess people hearing this might be skeptical or concerned about um I don't know, like I understand. I was just talking to someone else about this, another business owner in
Mhm.
Liverpool, and we were expressing the fact that we understand where our parents come from and having certain and how they grew up and what traumas they had. And I guess there could be an issue of like, well, I don't excuse it, I just understand it. Or
Mhm.
in understanding it, I'm not then double negative, not requesting them to change or to adapt. You know what I mean? Like there are ways that your partner could adapt to you as well, and it's not like, oh well, that's their design. So that's like there's no way that they can grow because like your astrological sign is Cancer or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I think
Oh yeah,
yeah, I just want to
yeah.
like
No, I mean,
put that
like
out there for
there
the
are times when I push him, like, and be like, "Well, that's what you're doing right now. You're saying that it's not good, but it's part of your design, like, like."
yeah.
But there's a difference. Like, there's a difference between like when he's just being a jerk.
Yeah.
I'll
Like
call him out on
you
being
don't
a
want to be
jerk.
like abuse is fine because that's
Oh
like
yeah, no, like I'll call him out when he's being a jerk. Like there's a line. I have boundaries, but it's there's a difference between that and I am raging angry, and he's like, I have no idea what I did. Like, and that's I mean, in a way, it's like me understanding how I am perpetuating the abuse that I experienced upon him when
Yeah.
that happened, and I didn't understand that that's what I was doing
Mm.
before this. And now it's like, oh, okay, this is not him, and he does not need to be the target of my anger.
Mm.
And anger is like one of the key like emotions associated with my design. It's not one of his.
Mm.
So like that's another part of like he's not supposed to get like angry like I get, and frustrated like I get, because those are aspects of my type, my human design
Mm.
type, that are key to understanding what needs to happen next for me.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's so important because I just wouldn't want listeners to think like this just excuses everything, but it makes total sense.
It's about self-awareness. Like it's about like
Yes.
and understanding when it's, because like you were saying earlier, energy is all mirrors. It's all the energy we put out is the energy that comes back to us. And so when I put out a particular energy that is from my conditioned self and not my higher self, not my authentic true self, then it's going to come back to me and I'm not going to like it.
Yeah.
And I got to set up boundaries internally as well as externally in my relationships and my relationship with myself and my relationship with others. And it's really about activating those boundaries. I actually just set up on my website, like people do like book a one-on-one client call with me. I'm like, I don't want to just do that. Like, what's the point of having a call with me? Like, if you're interested in becoming my client. So I do sacred no activations. And we activate, like we look at your human design chart and we talk about like, okay, where are the biggest like bugaboos for where boundaries are not being held in your life. And then we talk about some practical steps, and then I do some Reiki magic and we like activate what we talked about. We activate those boundaries. And then, if people want to work with me as a coach to talk about human design or EFT or whatever, then they've had an experience of what my energy feels like. And I'm putting this energy out into the world as a gift.
Yeah. So how close is your soul attunement stuff with your academic stuff? Do you combine them? Is that actually a Venn diagram that overlaps in terms of your academic and woo?
I think that there's a couple areas where they overlap. One is understanding the nature of colonization and decolonization. My most recent article was published was about decolonizing and Orientalism in Russia and decolonizing Russian studies through understanding how the other was conceptualized in Russian culture. This place of reclaiming what is spiritually empowering, with the caveat that we need to do it in a way that is respectful and acknowledging of the cultures that have preserved a lot of these systems despite the persecution of colonization.
Right.
So that we can partake in them as a world community of humans. So I think there's that overlap in terms of my scholarship and my approach to why is this legitimate? It's legitimate because Western culture has delegitimized it for centuries. And we need to stop doing that. We need to stop delegitimizing knowledge that doesn't fit into Enlightenment paradigms. So that part. And then the other part is it's affected my teaching. The more that I work with clients who are working through their own traumas, that are working through their own journey, their own human design journey, their own journey of self-actualization, the more I'm making little tweaks in my teaching. I'm asking questions a little bit differently. I'm choosing to open up space for types, like human design types that typically are not their way of talking through things is not conventional. And so just opening up my pedagogical techniques to different ways of thinking about who my students are through the lens of human design without actually knowing their designs, just knowing how humans are wired differently, has been really fun and changes, I don't know, it changes how the energy that I put out to my students. I guess, it changes the energy that I get back from them.
Yes. And is it easier being in a humanities subject area for people to be like, oh, you do that? Okay, yeah. I mean, you teach art history. I mean, is there anything like that? Because I'm just wondering, I wonder how many people in neuroscience back where I was like in cognitive neuroscience, like if people would be like, I'm sorry, no.
It's funny because the number of neuroscientists that commented on some of those viral posts was jaw dropping. And
Wow.
I ended up I had a number of just like coffee chats with people from those posts. And I ended up talking to like 3 neuroscientists one time.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
So like the neuroscientists are really into the woo, is my understanding.
All right. I love it.
Whereas like I don't know, there's only one other art historian in our group as far as I know. Although she and I like really deeply connected.
Yeah. That's
I don't know,
amazing.
like art history is a discipline that is so that colonialism is so deeply embedded into. Um, and I think that it helps me inform how I communicate visually to people about human design. Um, but I don't know that I have not gotten any invitations from my art historian colleagues to share this passion with them. I'll put it that way. Like, and I'm not pushing it because that's not my design,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's interesting because I guess, yeah, it makes sense. People have this, it's the spirituality, as you said, it's recognizing people as their full selves.
Well, and I teach at a public university, and so talking about spirituality is a tricky thing. A
Mm,
lot of my students are deeply religious.
mm,
I mean, I live in a very, very red evangelical area of the country.
mm.
Um, and I can talk to them about, like, it's been actually really helpful to be able to meet them in a common ground and be like, I know, like, just from knowing you and having you in several classes, that you have a deep, abiding faith. And I know that you don't know how this is going to turn out and it's scaring you, but I know that you believe that someone's got your back.
Mhm.
And I believe that too, you know? So like we have this space that we can have common ground. But you can't really talk about that in class.
Yeah.
But I do talk about a lot of religious artwork in class because I teach art history and I teach, and it's really interesting talking about how it's a very different conception of religion than a lot of my students have ever been exposed to, because Catholicism in 15th, 16th century Italy is a very different, like, what is that? Oh, there we go. It's a very different experience of religion. They don't understand. Like it's not living in an environment that's not ecumenical is something that's totally new to them. Living in an environment where there is only one belief system is something that is totally new to them. And so, like, I've always had interesting conversations about spirituality with my students, in part because an undergrad, I was a theology major. So, like, that's kind of like, I'm steeped in that. I'm not a Catholic, but I went to a Catholic university and studied theology. So, like, I know how to talk about Catholicism without, like, being evangelical about it, because I don't actually believe like all of it or some of it. Like, I appreciate it. I have deep appreciation for a lot of the spirituality in Catholicism, but like it's not a faith that I like subscribe to. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we've gotten to the part of the conversation where I ask you.
I hope I haven't gone on too long.
It might be that you have a religious drawing in of like music. I'm just thinking about like religious
Oh,
the
I thought you were gonna. I do have part of my chart that's all about spirituality.
But I'm thinking about songs and what's on your playlist. I'm just thinking of Ave Maria. That was like my mom's favorite
Oh,
song now. I'm just like, oh yeah, it's a definite religious song. But
all
yeah,
right.
what's
Well, I'll give you something deeply, deeply religious,
you
and
don't
I do
have
mean
to.
this in all sincerity. Pink
Okay.
Pony Club. Pink Pony Club is on my playlist right now. And I do feel like there is something deeply, intensely like passionate of a belief system that is embodied in Pink Pony Club about like, like that fun of like rejecting the status quo and being with a community of people who support you. Yeah, that's religion in a nutshell, right?
That is total religion. I feel blessed.
Yay. So every time you hear Pink Pony Club now, you're going to feel like, I'm going to the Church of Pink Pony Club.
Let's go to the Church of Pink Pony. Oh, I love it. That's incredible. Oh, you totally delivered on that. I think yours was the best one.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's incredible. Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, today I was just listening to a bunch of like acid house and just like the most silly, boom, boom, boom type of music, like, and just, yeah, it was just total fun, nothing like serious about it. And that's why I'm really loving locking right now as well. Like the old school, like, yeah, and just point and
Love it.
it's just so silly. Do you know what I mean? It's the most silly dance that you can just bring in loads of styles. And I love that. I love anything that brings in, as you were saying, the holistic, like actually just bring it all in.
Yeah, bring it all in. Everybody's welcome.
Yes, everybody is
Everybody's
welcome.
welcome to the Pink Pony Club.
Everybody is welcome. I love that. And I mean, along those lines, I did see, just to give everybody, I think I might add this, in terms of like inclusiveness, is there is a petition going around for anybody in the UK, although you can be anywhere in the world. But we are expressing our disbelief and like disgust at the UK Supreme Court, kind of following Trump on, I don't know, around, like not including trans women and not including trans men, actually no mention really, because everybody forgets about them. And so there is a petition of academic women stating that this does not represent us, which you can do from anywhere in the world and sign in solidarity. So I will include that in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Solidarity
Thank you
with
for amplifying that.
everyone around the world and all of our mutual struggles, some more than others, which, we do need to be right behind and saying this is not right. So thank you for opening that up to discussion, because it was on my mind before I came on, but then you come on the podcast and you're like, okay, now we're doing the thing. And then, it's recognizing what all the things we bring.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for being here, Marie. And where can people find you? I mean, where's the first place they should go? I know what the answer should be.
Well, my website. Probably.
And join us on the Facebook group.
Yeah, and join us in the Facebook group, because I am probably the most active there right now. I have like social channels kind of all over the place, and
I just followed you on Bluesky.
Very haphazard. I'm very haphazard about wherever I like, and you know what? In 2 months, I might be entirely on Bluesky. I don't know. So I kind of just spread the love, and whenever I feel about posting on one particular channel, I do, and I'm not consistent. Maybe someday I will get more consistent, but you know what? I follow my own rules, and that's what I'm doing right now.
The consistency is the inconsistent. Yes.
I follow my joy.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much for sharing your joy here.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for joining us.
Much fun.
Yes. Thank you for joining us, everybody.